pase, pierna derecha, directo al arco, ¡golazo! ¡Golazo!
The world of football with a soccer perspective. This is Soccer Today with Duane, Rollins and Kevin Laramee, live on the Sports Podcasting Network.
And good day, good night. Welcome to Soccer Today for January 18th, 2018. Joining us on the line right now, Canadian international Nana Attakora, who just signed a brand new contract with the Ottawa Fury for 2018. Nana Attakora, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good, Nana, and thank you for taking some time today. Let's just start with a basic question. What was it that motivated you to come back to Ottawa, to come back to Canada after many years away?
It was, to be honest, it was a conversation I had with Julian. If I'm going to be honest with you guys, I had no intention on returning to Canada just yet. I did want to be in the States for a little. And then after the season, my team had last year, there was some interest. But the uncertainty with NASL and all that really turned me off. And then I spoke with Julian. I spoke with some of the Fury players, and I saw the plans they had. And I mean, I would have been crazy not to come back this season.
Fair enough. And you mentioned Julian de Guzman, of course, there, who's coaching at the Fury now. How important has Julian's influence been in just not only you, but in all sort of the Canadian players that are a little bit younger than him? He's a guy that sort of got a little bit of a bad flack from his time in Toronto. I'm not sure why, but just talk about Julian de Guzman and what his influence has meant to you and other Canadian players.
Yeah, Julian, to me and to a lot of the guys, Daniel Henry, Jamar Dixon, these guys, it's been, like an older brother or like a father figure, you could say. I know for me personally, when I was in Toronto and, DC Sounds, when I had my injury problems, he was one person who would call me or text me like every other day and, keep my spirits up. So I have a lot of respect for Julian, what he's done for Canadian soccer and the career he's had. But just the type of man he is as a man and how he cares for younger Canadian players. So Julian's always been someone I look up to, and having the opportunity to come back and play for him, it was kind of like a thank you, for everything he's done for me and just everything he's done for young Canadian players.
You mentioned the uncertainty with the NASL. Let's remind our listeners, last year you won the NASL with San Francisco Deltas, of course, with your teammate that's joining you in Ottawa, Maxime Tissot, a little bit of a homecoming for Maxime, and Mark Dos Santos, head coach of the San Francisco Deltas last year. Won the championship, but the team folded and the league is not doing well. How important was this in your decision-making process when you looked at the USL and the Ottawa Fury and the stability that they seem to find in the second division?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, it was an interesting situation because if you look at San Antonio in 2015, they left to go USL. They didn't fall, but they left. Fort Lauderdale, we have a great team, great players, and then they have the issues they have if they end up folding. San Francisco, you bring in the players you do, the coaching staff you do, you win the league, and then you fold again. So, at the end of the season, not even at the end of the season, coming mid-season when we found out what was going on with the club, you start thinking, like, is this going to be like a normal thing? Every season you have to deal with this. And it was always on my mind. I don't know how much longer I could, deal with something like this. And like I said, when the opportunity came to join a team like Ottawa in a league like USL that has shown, they're stable, they have a plan for the future, it was kind of a no-brainer.
It's interesting when you talk about this, Nana, because we talked to St. Ricketts, I think it was a year and a half ago, when he joined Haifa Hapoel, and he had the same type of feeling too. It's like you join a team somewhere you don't know, they give you a good plan, but then the check bounces. And how prevalent is it in the world of soccer for soccer players like yourself to have to be careful not to get pretty much scammed when you're actually trying to find a club?
Yeah, TOS was an interesting situation. Some of those European countries, they're known for that stuff, but here in America, players don't really have that issue. Checks bouncing and not being paid. You don't have that type of stuff going on here. So when it does happen, it's like, what's going on? And, you're being told one thing, and then and other things happening. For me, the last 2 seasons taught me a lot, and I told myself I'm not gonna deal with this again. Especially after this season, you build such a strong team, strong connections, and then poof, the team's gone. That turned me off a lot. So I'm happy, to be in a place where there's a lot of stability and a plan for the future.
Nana, a lot of people, a lot of fans, especially that are passionate about the Canadian side of the game, are talking a lot about the Canadian Premier League and its launch, which apparently is going to happen in April of next year. I'm wondering, as a player, whether conversations about what this league might be, what it might mean for a guy like you, are something that happens. So, what are you thinking about this Canadian Premier League project that's out there?
First off, I'm very happy it's going to happen. I feel like we need it as a country. We have so much talent here. You look at, my age group, for example. I think we have so much talent, but not too many players, are playing at a high level anymore. And I feel like this league will help with the national team, finally help us get to compete, with the U.S., the Mexicos of, CONCACAF. As for me personally, it's something I thought about. I've spoken to my agent about it as well. But I'll deal with that, when the time gets here. I would love to be a part of it. I would love to help the league grow. But I'm just happy we're finally getting a league, and it's being taken serious for the younger generation.
And then, of course, you've had some caps for Canada. There's been dry times for you, good times for you. What are your thoughts on the recent changes that have happened with the Canadian national team, with John Herdman coming over, I should say, from the women's side to take over the men's side? What are your thoughts there?
I don't know him personally. I've actually never met him, but you look at his track record with the women's team. I mean, his success speaks for itself. So you can't argue. You can't have any doubts with the hiring. I didn't get a chance to work with the coach that they got rid of. I heard nothing but good things about him too. So, like I said, the CSA must know what they're doing. And if you look at his track record with the women's team, you can't. There's nothing bad you could say about it. So hopefully he could bring that success over to the men's team, and we can improve on the past year that we had.
So 2018 with the Ottawa Fury, you're joining Maxime Tissot as well, Julian de Guzman, former colleague of yours, technical director of the Ottawa Fury. You mentioned how Julian was important in your decision making. I'm wondering how important a technical director, his networks of contacts, his reputation, his ambition as a technical director, how important is it when you're finding a club to be convinced, to be seduced by that technical director? How important is that technical director?
Yeah, if you know Julian, he has a passion for winning. It's all he really cares about. He doesn't care how it's done. He just wants to win. And I spoke with him numerous times before I made my decision to come back, and you hear the plans he has, the players that are reaching out to him. And that was something that was really interesting to me. It was the players reaching out to him. He didn't really need to go looking for players, because he's played all over. He had a great career. So players reaching out to him to, join the Fury. And honestly, I can't say too much. But, I mean, you're going to see some of the signings that the Fury are taking it serious this year. And there's going to be some, high-quality players coming in. If certain deals could get done, the Fury will be very competitive. Not only in USL, but for the Canadian Championship, which Julian wants to take very serious this year. It's going to be exciting for Ottawa Fury fans.
And when we're looking at the Canadian Championship, you just mentioned it. It's probably a target for the Ottawa Fury in 2018. How fun would it be for you personally, Nana, to either have a matchup against your former club, Toronto FC, in the Canadian Championship, or just measure yourselves up with a MLS team? Could it be a highlight of a potential season?
Yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to. First of all, Toronto FC, the last couple of seasons, for me, this past season, for me, the best MLS team I've seen, hands down. So if we do get the opportunity to play them, that'll be very fun. My hometown, former team. I have nothing but respect for every player on that team, especially the Canadian players, for what they've done. So that'll be fun. But whatever team we do get to play, it's going to be a big tournament, and I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we do well.
Well, you mentioned TFC, and we might as well segue there. Of course, you were one of the guys back in the old days, the battle days in some ways, in terms of the results of the field. What was it like as a former player watching that team next year? Did you become a fan? Did you sort of go like, why weren't they this good when I was there? What was it like watching it?
Well, I've always been a fan of TFC. Even when I left, you cannot not be a fan of your hometown, you know. So for me, I was at the finals when they won it, and that was a great moment for me, you know, just to come home and a place I used to play and see the first Canadian team win the MLS Cup. So that was a good experience. But what they did this season was remarkable. You look at the players they have. There's not much you can say. It was unbelievable what they did this year. Winning everything you could possibly win. Hopefully they could continue that success next year and this year. And when they play in February, right, in Mexico.
Yeah, it's the end of the month. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully they can go there, get a result. Oh, okay. Hopefully they can get a result there and go far in that tournament. But watching them's fun. Their style of play, the way they play. You know, seeing players like also do so well, Toss. It's fun watching TFC.
Fair enough. Then, of course, you had a long stretch in the NASL where you made, so you revitalized your career. That league is struggling right now to stay afloat. This is kind of a weird question, a difficult question, I guess, but how important was that league to you, and how important do you think it is for people to do whatever is possible to keep it afloat?
Yeah, that's a very good question. That league, it was, like you said, it was very important for me. 2014, I was hurt all year. I don't think I played a regular season game for DC, and then I went down. It was a hard decision to leave because I didn't know what to expect. But I had a good season. I was fit, playing, and the most important thing is I was playing games. And, that was helped me get my career back on track. And it's sad what's going on there, because it's a lot of jobs at risk right now. A lot of players, don't know what they're going to be doing this season. So hopefully they can figure it out, because that league was crucial for myself and for many other people. And it was a good league. The quality was high. So, I'm hoping that NSL could sort it out and they could, work out any deal with U.S. Soccer Federation that they could. But I'm rooting for them. Hopefully they could figure it out.
Nana, a little easier question for you right now, a more fun question. It's 2018. It's the age of social media, the age of Twitter, and I'm wondering, Nana, and why aren't you on Twitter? And I'm not saying this as I understand, and I actually might want to do like you, but I'm just wondering the thought process and how. Well, I know you probably have more peace than I do because social media rings my phone every maybe 5 minutes. But what is your thought process with that?
I've just never been the one to really, care what other people have to say. And, there's just so many opinions nowadays. I just prefer to stay away from it, It's just peace of mind, really. My whole career I've been like that. I've been, low-key, haven't really, listened to other people's opinions. So I just stay away from Twitter.
Well, that's a perfect segue to my next question. One question I always ask to every player that comes on the show, Nana, and is if you can go back in time and ask 10-year-old young Nana an advice. Give him an advice for his playing career, for his soccer career ahead of him. What would you say to yourself at 10 years old?
Wow, that's a tough one. That's good. A question for 10-year-old Nana, correct?
An advice that you would give to young Nana soccer player.
Advice, yeah. I would just, when I first started my career, I thought it was always going to be, peaches and roses. Everything was going to go smoothly. So when I hit, when I started getting injuries and things started, weren't going my way, I took it personal, and it really affected me. I would just tell myself that you're going to go through hard times in life, and, you just got to keep your head up and keep working, because the hard times don't last. It's just temporary, and if you stay focused and work hard, everything will turn for the better.
The Deltas last year were kind of a unique team. I don't know if there's another team in the world that's had one season of championship and out. It's very unique that way. How challenging was it for the players to stay focused when all that stuff was swirling around the club?
Yeah, everyone asked that question, but we had our group was a very fun, energetic group. So I remember when the CEO came in and told us, hey, listen, there's a chance that we might not exist. As soon as he walked out, everybody was laughing. And it's just because that was a changing with players that have been through so much. We had a lot of experienced players on that team. So we've all faced adversity in our careers. That we were just laughing. We're like, you know what? Put it aside. We've got a good team, a good thing going on. Let's just go win a championship and let people talk. And that's what we said when we were told that. And a few months later, we ended up winning the championship, and we were just laughing again at that. So we didn't take it. A lot of people think we took it hard and we were worried. It wasn't like that at all. We literally laughed and we had fun, and it was like a joke for the rest of the season.
Fair enough. It's like Slapshot. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but the team's on the ropes and they go forward and win, or Major League, I guess, as well. Marc Dos Santos, of course, he coached you last year with the Deltas, has had incredible success wherever he's gone. Talk a little bit about what makes Dos Santos such an effective coach.
His work ethic. I don't think I've seen someone who works as hard as Marc. She'll be up late, studying film, up early. You could text him at any time if you have any questions. And he's a player's coach. He's very approachable. He could be a friend, or he could be the most ruthless man you've ever met. And I think that's what that reputation is what has got him all that success. He got along with every single player. He knew how to interact with every player, with a lot of different personalities and stuff, but he figured it out, and he figured it out early. So, I mean, you look at the Deltas, we had the toughest road schedule of any soccer team in North America, and we only lose one time on the road. You don't hear about this stuff, but I don't want to sit here and, give him all, but you have to. Without him, that doesn't happen, the coaching staff he put together.
And I'm just wondering your thoughts on this. Marc Dos Santos is going to LA to be an assistant to Bob Bradley. Is it unfair, the time it is taking for Marc Dos Santos to have his shot in the Major League Soccer, in the first league of our continent, or in a first league somewhere? Is it a bit unfair, the time that it is taking?
I think it's unfair. I think Marc is a head coach in MLS. Obviously, you guys know MLS is it's kind of like a gentleman's club, in a way, you could put it that way. It's hard to get in. So I spoke with Marc before they announced the LA hiring, and we both agreed you're in the door now. So and Bob Bradley's a great coach. It's no better situation to be in. So I think it's a good move for Marc. Hopefully, he said it himself, I just need to work hard and lay low, and I'll get my chance. And he'll definitely get a chance somewhere. I think people are starting to realize the qualities he has, and now that he's inside that club, kind of, hopefully it could be sooner rather than later.
Nana Attakora of the Ottawa Fury, we want to thank you very much for your time today. You can watch Nana all year long this year with the Ottawa Fury if you get your tickets to the Ottawa Fury, OttawaFury.com, OSEG.com as well for more information. Nana, thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
You are listening to Soccer Today. Follow us on Twitter at Soccer Today SPN and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Sports Podcasting Network. You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your podcast.
And we're back on Soccer Today. Duane Rollins on the line with myself, Kevin Laramee. Well, that was fun. Always fun to talk to Nana. Always fun to talk to Canadian soccer players. There's something about Canadians, Duane.
One of the nicest guys you'll ever deal with. He's a professional athlete and so thankful and soft spot. I don't know. I have a very, very soft spot for young Nana, and I do thank the Fury for setting this up, and for Nana for taking some time out of his day today to have a chat with us. And
that's the thing.
He gave some thoughtful answers there, I thought.
Yeah, no, yeah, of course. And he came back yesterday from Africa. He's already sick. You know what happens with the weather when you go in hot weather and come back here. It's minus 67 like it is in Russia. You get sick. But on top of Nano Attakora, another important news in the Canadian soccer world was kind of announced yesterday, and it's kind of like the first signing with eyes looking towards the CPL. Nick Ledgerwood, formerly of FC Edmonton, has signed with the Calgary Foothills, Duane. He will be a coaching and a player in the PDL side, more coach, but this is with an eye towards the Canadian Premier League, with an eye towards maybe the Foothills in the CPL, in the CanPL, and he's just bidding his time until next year, and it's kind of like the first signing, and Nana is a bit this way too. We'll see if Ottawa goes to the league as soon as it launches. But if it does, Nana might be part of the original of the CPL. Nick Ledgerwood will be. And it's interesting, Duane, too, because he was in Edmonton. He was already in Alberta. And with, unfortunately, the ceasing of operation of the first team of FC Edmonton, finds himself with no job. Well, he doesn't even have to move. Just have to take his car, go a bit south, and go to Calgary and get a job there. So it's interesting to see this signing, this decision by Nick Ledgerwood with an eye towards 2019.
Yeah, Nick might want to live in Red Deer or something, so he's kind of in between the two cities to see what happens with the Canadian Premier League. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought about this, is that he's got a job for the year so he can pay the bills, and if the Canadian Premier League, launches with FC Edmonton in it in 2019, he can always just, sort of move back up the highway. There's also, some pretty strong suggestions out there that Calgary will be amongst the original cities as well, and the Foothills might be involved in some capacity. They are perhaps the most successful, if not there's a lot of politics within Calgary soccer. It makes your head spin if you start to get into it. But nonetheless, the Foothills have been very successful, and I would suggest that they have some technical skill there to be involved with Canadian Premier League. But yeah, exactly. He stays close, and Canadian Premier League, you're away. Well, you're in a bit, but that's start to get excited, and these ones are great.
Spring 2019, and that's what's been almost buried in the news of the new commissioner last week. The beginning of the league. We know it's going to be spring 2019 now. There's a lot of news that are going to come out in the next few days. And speaking of news going to come out in the next few hours, well, Duane, apparently it's done now. We've been talking about it for a week and a month and 5 months. Damali, we know he's in Italy already. He's been practicing and training with Bologna. We've seen the pictures. But apparently Safir Taider is done. Apparently he's coming to Montreal. Apparently it's for 3 years, DP contract. And watching a few videos yesterday of Safir Taider, I have to say, Duane, if the behavior aspect is all good, because he did have a few clubs and he did have a problem when he was with Inter Milan. Yes, he's a former Internazionale player. If he comes to Montreal and is able to just behave, I don't know personally the guys. I don't want to necessarily say that, but that's his reputation. So if that reputation is not well founded, well, maybe it's going to be a great move for the Impact, because he's young, he's energetic, and has that long shot from distance that can be a trouble for MLS goalkeepers. So this could be a positive sign for Montreal, but we're still waiting for confirmation.
It's felt like there's anything to do in Montreal. It's not like it's a party city. So yes, no, I joke. But,
yeah, true. Yeah, that's what I meant. But that's what I meant in a different way. But if you read between the lines, that's what I meant.
Well, yeah, no, nothing to do there. No one ever goes out in Montreal. It's not exactly, where people take stag parties and so on and so forth. One of the most vibrant nightlifes in North America. No, look. I think sometimes that reputation stuff can stick on a player because of one incident or 1 year or one bad decision when they were young. And I think that if I look back at the stuff I was doing when I was 21, when I was 25,
last week,
I just shake the hand. Well, yeah, 12 hours ago, maybe, I think you gotta look at players when it comes to that stuff of what they're doing now. What have you done for me lately type stuff, and not necessarily get bogged down in reputation issues. But look, obviously there's some skill there. Anyone who is with Ender has got some baseline skill. But at the same time, anyone who is with Inter and finds himself signing with the Montreal Impact or Toronto FC or the Atlanta United or whatever, it's had something happen in their career if it's gone from there to there. So, a chance for him to revitalize himself, and Montreal needs that type of position. So hopefully this happens for Impact fans, and I'm not sure it's going to necessarily, move the needle too much in terms of where that team is in the market now. But nonetheless,
not for the market.
Tighter,
it's not going to help to sell a lot of season tickets. Maybe in the Algerian community in Montreal, which there's a lot. So yeah, maybe he will have some influence there, but it's more of an on the field type of decision, and we'll wait and see. And there's a few other positions in Montreal that Impact need to take care of, so we'll see this in the next few days when the signing starts to come. And there's a draft this weekend. The NWSL draft, as we speak, is going down. Let's not forget, the Montreal Impact has the 4th and the 7th first round draft pick in this year's draft. And I don't want to guarantee a trade. I don't want to guarantee one of those 2 picks are going to be traded. But I have a feeling that the Impact won't draft twice in the first round. And I have a feeling they'll either move up or they're going to find a way to get an asset, to get some value out of those picks.
Yeah, anyone I've talked to sort of suggests that this might be perhaps one of the weakest draft classes we've ever seen, which is saying a lot because there's a lot of weak draft classes out there. So we'll see. You never know. And look, guys can come out of nowhere and can surprise. So there might be value there. And I do think that with 2 picks in the first 10, that the Impact do have a good chance to get an MLS player amongst those picks. I'm saying that purposely, an MLS player, not necessarily a star. Look, when I said what's going to move the needle in Montreal is winning, right? So if this build takes a year, it takes a year, and I would imagine that the hardcore Impact fan is willing to stick around for that if the payoff is in the end. You had a nice run last year. 2 years ago, it wasn't so great last year. If you can sort of take advantage of a year under a new coaching staff to get your stuff in order, then hey, great, you can turn it around quick. TFC was the worst team in the league 5 years ago. Now they're what they are, right? So it's not like this is a league that requires, multiple years to rebuild. So it all starts tomorrow, and you got to sort of what you need in Montreal. What I would preach to Joey if he was listening, and I'm sure he is, because obviously, right, is stability. Stability is what makes MLS teams work.
And I think that's what we're going to see.
Stick with it.
Yeah, but I think that's what we're going to see with Rémi Garde and the core that he's going to build now, right? The Impact is basically a team with no core right now. Like, the core was Patrice Bernier. You had other players that you could say were the core, and there's a lot of change of players heading into this year. The core is gone, and it's the building of a brand new core that Rémi Garde and his brand new coaching staff will be able to build. And the reconstruction is going to take a few years. But one thing that Montreal fans keep telling me they want to see, and I don't know if it's right or if it's the right thing to want, but a certain identity of play, a certain project, like a football project. They want to see consistency, improvement. They want to have a certain way to play the game and use that to get result and to play beautifully. And I think Rémi Garde, what he likes to do, what he likes to teach, not just as a coach, but as an educator, I think we will see more of an identity of play. I don't know what is going to be that identity. That will depend of the players Rémi Garde has and the best way possible to play with those players. But I think a system, like a consistent system or identity of a team, is something that we'll try and we'll see at least be tried to be implemented.
I think we get caught up in the formations and stuff like that.
It's not about formation. You're right. It's just how do you keep the ball? Do you pass the ball? Do you go forward? Those type of things. Do you play for fun? Do you play route one? Do you boot it to your tallest guy? Something.
Well, look, sorry, Impact fans, but look at TFC. They played that 3-man back all year, and what they do in the MLS Cup final, they switched up and played a diamond, right? You have to adjust it, but they basically were still playing the same way. They were trying to possess the ball. They were trying to go through the middle. They were trying to build play through through Vasquez and Bradley to Vasquez to the attackers. That's what they do. They try and build and draw things into the middle there so they can stretch the defenses with their outside backs. Like, that's not necessarily going to be tied into how many players are at the back at the start of the game and the opening kickoff. It's really just a foundation, a philosophy more than it is an actual tactic. Yeah, absolutely, though. You've got to stay consistent. That's what makes MLS teams win, and I think that's been the Impact's biggest mistake over the first, how many years is it? 6 now, 7 years? They've been in Major League Soccer.
This year will be the 7th season of the Montreal Impact in Major League Soccer.
Yeah, and they haven't been consistent throughout it, and they're not unique in that. This isn't me bashing the Impact. This is me observing the Impact. They need to stick with this plan, whatever it is, highs and lows for a few years, and it might pay off at the end. And look, just between you and me and the
nobody else is listening. Yeah, nobody else is listening. So you and I.
Yeah, I'm not a Torontonian or not a TFC fan that hates the Impact. I think it'd be great for Canadian soccer and for Montreal fans who are great fans to see this team succeed, and it would be great for the rivalry, and the rivalry is amazing when both teams are good. So
Eastern Conference Final 2016. Eastern Conference Final 2016, for me, hands down, to this day, the best 2-game series of soccer I've attended live. Yeah, CONCACAF Champions League's up there, but there was something special about that Montreal-Toronto series. But like you mentioned, wait, sorry, go ahead.
I said, and you lost.
And I lost,
you're still saying that. Yeah, and Benoit Giroux. It's kind of ironic that it was a French player that scored the goal. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Happy retirement, Benoit. You deserve it. You little. So saying, talking about identity and the turnaround of things, and I think MLS is still young enough, and that won't last for long. I think in like 4 or 5 years' time, this league would have changed where you will have the haves and the have-not, and to become a have, it'll take a lot of time. I think now it's still able to turn around quickly. And if you're Montreal Impact and you take 2 years to change your fortune and to build a stability with your players, with your training staff, to build like a new club identity that you just lost with the retirement of your captain and your soul of Patrice Bernier and all that. Well, if you do that quickly enough, you might have a chance to win the whole league before the rest of the league catches up to TFC. So I'm not saying it's now or never. I'm just saying there's still not enough team in this league that are willing to do what it takes, either financially or organizational wise, and who they hire as a coach and invest money in the coaching situation like Montreal just did. I think it's still there's still time to turn around and make the Impact example a successful team before the Columbus, before the Earthquakes, before the RSL of this world they realize that they need to do the same. So I think there's still a few years left before the entire league catches up to a TFC, but Montreal needs to act now, and I think that's why Rémi Gall was hired. Joey Saputo can use his financial advantage at that position. He can't use it on the locker room because, well, there's teams like TFC who has a lot more money than he does. But when you're looking at the coaching situation, that's where Montreal and Joey Saputo figured they can use their advantage.
Well, and not to be a broken record about this, I've talked about this many times in the past. Montreal has, in other sports in North America, being in a French-speaking city is a disadvantage. It is, and I'm not saying that as any disrespect to Montreal or the French culture. I'm just saying that realistically it is.
It is.
But within soccer, it can be an advantage because it distinguishes Montreal from other teams in Major League Soccer. There's a whole market out there in which they can look at all of the players and say, look, you come here and your life is easier than if you go there. And I think that's, it seems simplistic in some ways, but I've always felt that the Impact should absolutely embrace their Frenchness and become the French team in Major League Soccer. And I think that if they do that and embrace that fully, both with Quebecois players that they grow and also with players from France or Algeria or
Belgium,
wherever, Belgium, exactly, the French world, if they do that, there's a lot of players out there and they are going to be inclined to want to go to Montreal more than the rest of the league. And I think that is actually an advantage for the Impact that they need to take more advantage of.
Why did you think Didier Drogba came to Montreal instead of Chicago? Because he liked flat crust pizza instead of thick crust and instead of deep dish? No. Came to Montreal because Montreal is French. And he felt a bit of rapport with Saputo. Didn't end the way he wanted to. But Didier Drogba came to Montreal because he speaks French and Montreal's French. That's one of the reasons. So you have that right there. You have an example. And now with Rémi Garde and the coaching staff, I think we've been saying this, 4 years now on Two Solitudes and Soccer Today. I think now Montreal is going to finally accept the fact that they're a French market in an English one and be proud of it, right? You have to embrace the heel, embrace your difference before you have to accept yourself before you're loved by everyone, right? Well, Montreal's accepting themselves. Montreal is embracing their Frenchness in 2018.
Yeah, and look, we talk all the time, not to contradict ourselves, but we talk all the time with the need to have that core of MLS lifers. It's not like you're not going to have those guys on your team. It's just that if you look in the international market, you might as well be looking in the French-speaking world because you have that advantage. And that, in turn, is going to make you have that sort of feel to them. And you supplement that. You build around with guys that you draft or you find in the league or whatever, and they're going to go to a winner. So that's not going to matter. It's something you have to take advantage of to distinguish yourself from the rest of the league. And I think that it also adds a little color. It's nice in a league that seems like, a bunch of Tim Hortons franchises playing each other in some weeks to have that distinguishedness of the impact that the difference of them. I'm glad they wear fleur-de-lis on their sock is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I wish that one day we'll have different manufacturers of kit in this league, right? That's what I'm waiting for. Yeah. The one day where it's not just Adidas. Nothing against Adidas. Look at my wall. It's a bunch of Adidas stuff all around me. But it's fun when you have, like you mentioned, differences, different colors, literally and figuratively. And I can only imagine if you have like Adidas, Nike, or Fila. Why not Fila? Can you imagine Fila like being the kit manufacturer of, I don't know, the Revolution? Kind of the same color, or you have like a Macron out of nowhere, or Kappa, or Umbro can make a comeback in North America and be like, yay, we'll get them. That makes for. Are we asking for more openness? Is that what we're asking for? But anyways, you're right, and you made me thought of that when you're saying it's fun to have a league with differences, and I guess I want that.
Yeah, well, I actually randomly ran into Ben Knight yesterday, and back in it's called football days, so it's been listening to me that long. Ran into him on Bloor Street, and he used to always famously say it was just the McDonald's franchises playing each other, and that was the problem with the league. And I think it's distinguishing itself a little bit now. But yeah, absolutely, the more changes out there, the more differences out there, the better. But that said, hey. Go Team MLS, and tomorrow's the draft day, and what we're going to celebrate the draft, Kevin. You know how we're going to celebrate the draft? By not having a Soccer Today show tomorrow.
Doing the 5 rings. Yes, that's why I know what we said yesterday. 5 rings was going to be today, but we were able to have Nana Attakora on the show, and we both thought it was worth it to just push 5 rings tomorrow and do a Soccer Today. And there's one thing we've been pushing around all week. We didn't talk about it all week yet. Like, no, it's not important. It's fine. They lost anyways. Well, we'll talk about it now to finish the week of soccer, Duane. Yeah, it was a difficult weekend for Manchester City. Last weekend, they lost and unbeaten no more. 4-3 versus Liverpool. Well, that was a hell of an entertaining game, though.
Yeah, they almost came back from 4-1 down. The goals came a little too late, obviously, and the perfect streak, the undefeated streak ends, which takes a little edge off the season games going forward, which is the only unfortunate thing from a City partisan perspective. It's hard to really get pumped up by games, against West Brom or whoever, for the rest of the season, because the perfect record is no longer on the table. What it illustrated to me, Kevin, is that just how difficult. How impressive it was what Arsenal did back in the day to go without a loss the entire season. It is so competitive, and every week you play so many games. The schedule is so tight. They had a lot of draws, 11 draws or something, the Arsenal team that went undefeated. But at the same time, they managed to get it done week after week after week. And that's off the table for City this year. And I think maybe it's going to be very difficult for any team ever to duplicate it. But I think at this point they just refocus and say, well, let's lock down the leagues so that we can focus in the Champions League. And I believe that's exactly what they're going to do. Look, Liverpool deserved the win. They were the better team. I had some issues with the refereeing at the time, but that was my City hat was on at that point. When I look back in hindsight and sort of objectively, it was Liverpool's day. Liverpool's a good team and good for them. I congratulate them for that. And it's a great scalp for them to take. And City, though, still controlling themselves the rest of the way. And as long as they do what they have to do, this league is theirs to take and theirs to take early, and they can focus on doing something truly historic for that club and going deep in Europe. I'm not, completely convinced they can win the Champions League. There's some great teams in the world, but I think that you have to admit, even if you're a City hater, that they are amongst the people that you've been having conversations about when you're talking about who might win that competition this year. And I'm already stressing about how I'm going to survive that day if that were to happen.
There's great teams in this world, Duane, like in France, like in Paris, like a team who wins 8-0 but still finds a way to be booed off the field by their fans and created a controversy after winning 8-0 to Dijon. So you have to be careful what you wish for. Sometimes there's other great teams, but no, you're right. City's going to win the league. They're 12 points in front of their city rivals of Manchester United. Yeah. City might have failed to sign Sanchez, and it's going to be announced later, maybe today or the next few days, that United have signed him. That United have re-signed Marino until 2021 as well. That's coming out in the next few days, but Manchester is still blue because there's 12 points ahead.
Yeah, it's been one hell of a season. They're going to chase that points record, is I think what their focus will be on now. 95, I believe, is what Chelsea ended up with. If I'm correct, I don't know, off the top of my head if I'm wrong. So. I'm sorry, but that'll be the focus. And I think that if they break the points record, then you can make an argument that they've had one of the best seasons in Premier League history, and that's. For a club like City that has the sort of up and down history they have, that would be something to really hang their hat on. And this is a fun team to watch still, and it was bound to happen. They got through the Christmas season fairly clean, but look, they slipped up, and it's a hard league to win week in, week out, and they're still doing something remarkable with one loss, and I'm not hiding from it in any true way, but still got some business to do. Still got to win that second leg against Bristol to get to the first cup of hopefully many this year, and hopefully for me, maybe not for you if you're listening, but nonetheless, that's the great thing about the sport. It's not long to the next game, and we move on, Kevin. And
there's always a game somewhere. It's just like drinking. Soccer is like drinking. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Where in soccer, it's 7 o'clock somewhere. There's always a game going on.
Fair enough, man. We're going to watch that, what would be going on right now. I guess
Melbourne. There's probably something going on in Australia or something. I don't know.
Yeah, 12 hours to Beijing. Maybe there's some Chinese league games just wrapping up or so. So you never know. You can find some games. This is probably the dead time within the sport, really. It's in the middle of the morning over here. It's kind of the time that it might be difficult. But usually there's games on, yes.
Exactly. And as always, you can follow Duane on Twitter at 24th Minute and myself at Kev Laramee. I want to thank a listener who just wrote to me on social media. I'm not even going to try to say his username because there's a lot of letters and not a lot of consonant of a lot of vowels and not a lot of vowels and a lot of other letters, and that's a nope. So, but that OCP, thank you for your message. We did have a increase of quality over the last few weeks. Talk about the thousands of dollars of investment. In the big picture, we do appreciate your help. We're trying to do a high quality soccer radio, podcast, on-demand audio, whatever you like it, videos now too. Well, you can help us to do even more. You can help us to get one of those nice mic to Duane so it doesn't sound like he's on the phone all the time. So we can do that with your help. sportspodcastingnetwork.com or patreon.com/sportspodcastingnetwork. You can give us a little hand. $1 a month goes a long way. If every listener would give $1 a month, we would be doing this full-time, hiring an actual staff, hiring researchers, hiring some interns, hiring some on-air talent that you know and love. And if we have your help, we can do even more. So again, to stay independent, we need your help. There's not a lot of independent soccer outlets out there that are left. A lot of them are folded. And if they're still there, they don't even do news anymore. What's up, 442? So, exactly. At patreon.com/sportspodcastingnetwork, you can actually give us a hand. And as always, until Monday for another edition of Soccer Today, have a great soccer. Duane and I will be back tomorrow with the Five Rings podcast. But until then, have a great soccer.
You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your podcast.